Hello everybody, my name is Nathan Faw. Today's video is going to be another video, I guess, where we're going to dive a little bit into some history. I've got a letter that was written by my great uncle. Well, we called him Charlie, but Charles. Oh, and I also got just a short kind of just a few statements that were made by my grandmother, Ellen Stevenson. So both are pretty short. This video is probably not going to be very long. Also with this video, there's not a lot of, it's probably discussion. I mean, as far as like, insights that we maybe can, glean from it, or, some of the larger lessons about, strength and hope, and, some of the other, topics that we've maybe dove into in previous videos. I just thought I would share these because they're interesting, especially the one that was written by my great uncle, because it's kind of funny. You'll kind of hear, I mean, he's got some pretty strong opinions about how things have maybe changed, or how he saw things change throughout his life, and maybe not always for the better. So we'll get right into this. And I should also probably explain that the letter that was written by my great uncle was in response to a letter that was written to him by his sister Dorothy, where she was asking him to, write out these kind of memories, or, things that he remembered throughout his life or whatever. So what I'm going to be sharing here is, I guess, a response to that letter. I don't know if I actually have the letter, but anyways. My Memories by Charles. I remember the first years I went to school. I suppose I was 6 or 7 years old. Some of the teachers I had through the years: Louise Marsh, C. Bradley, F. McKean, Thomas Baskin, E. Fairweather, Anna Jord. The first years I went, we had school in the summertime. Later they changed it and we had school in the winter. I remember Louise Marsh and Merle Chase drove a horse and buggy to school. The horse's name was Roxy. I remember we drove a horse and buggy, or team and wagon, to Ekman. Ekman was a real good town in those days. When the house was built in 1913, Dad bought all of the material in Ekman. Ekman turned out to be a sad tale. Everything we wanted could be bought in Ekman. 2 stores, a bank, a hardware store, a blacksmith shop, 4 grain elevators, a depot, and 2 trains every day, a drugstore, livery barn, and a doctor. One night, about 1915, 2 elevators and the depot burned down. They thought it maybe was arson. The depot was built up again. There was a coal dock there where the engine loaded up to fire the engine. There was 2 mail routes out of Ekman. The first mail carrier was Charlie Summers. Ekman had 2 churches and a good school. There was no sod church. But now poor Ekman is gone, nothing at all there. The automobile killed the small towns. The bridge here was built in 1910. Side note, and he's talking about the bridge that was built, well, basically kind of right in front of their house. There was a small creek that ran through it. When folks came here in 1901 or 1902, their closest town was Granville, 35 miles to go with team and wagon. Ekman did not start until 1905 to 1907. We got our first threshing machine in 1927. 21 years later, we started using the combine. We got our first automobile in 1921, a Model T Ford. When I was younger, I thought the automobile was a great thing. For the last 15 or 20 years, I came to the conclusion it was a bad invention. It killed the small towns, it causes more crime, it pollutes the air we breathe, maybe acid rain, and above all, it kills thousands of people. It seems like it's left its deadly sting. And then there's the big airplane. When they go down, they kill maybe 500 people. I remember very well seeing Halley's Comet looking straight west after the sun went down, a big star with a long tail in 1910. I was 8 years old then. Dad did have a barn dug into the south bank of the river, but I do not remember that very well. Hortons over here had a house built into the bank. They used it many years. They said it was warm in winter and cool in summer. All right, so that was the letter that was written by my great uncle Charlie. So now, like I said, what I'm going to read next is just a few short lines that were written by my grandmother, Ellen Stevenson. She writes, Ekman had both high school and grade school until about 1940. Donald Hoskins purchased the large gray frame building which served as a school and tore it down for lumber. Ekman now and then attained a bit of attention for being the coldest spot in North Dakota when the thermometer dipped to 58 below in 1936. Ekman made headlines all over the nation. Presbyterians and Catholics established the original churches. Trinity later purchased the Presbyterian Church, which burned in 1947. I believe Trinity was a Lutheran church. So, then Ekman became a city on July 1st, 1967, under the law which decreed the end of villages in the state. So, like I said, just a few kind of side notes. So, anyways, like I said, I don't really have a lot more to add to that. I will say the letter from my great uncle is interesting. I really like his thoughts on, I guess, the automobile and the airplane. I mean, it should be noted that he was a real interesting man. He spent a lot of time. I mean, he was a very brilliant man. I mean, he was an inventor. He was a machinist. He was a mechanic. He was a fabricator. I mean, I have some memories of him. He died when I was pretty young, but I can remember, I can remember him and remember him being kind of like out in his shop, and he kept to himself. I mean, he was kind of a little bit of a, what would be the word, a recluse. I think there was maybe some reasons for that, but he was a pretty quiet man from what I can remember. But yeah, he built all sorts of things. He built an operating like a small steam engine. I believe that is still maybe operational. I think it's maybe part of one of the threshing shows that Lansford. But anyways, I mean, after he died, I believe it was donated to one of the threshing shows or whatever. And I believe it still gets fired up. I mean, he built like a hydroelectric power station. I mean, he built a four-wheel drive tractor out of parts. I mean, it just, there was a lot of things. Like I said, he was an interesting man. So even though he didn't appear to really like the automobile or planes, apparently he did have somewhat of a fascination, at least for building machines. But I think, like I said, that'll probably be it. I really just wanted to kind of, put this video together really quick. I just thought it was interesting, especially the letter from Charlie again, and I hope that you enjoy it as well. But until next time, thank you very much.